and gentlemen, you are in the zone. Welcome back, zoners. Welcome back, hoopers. Welcome back, basketball world. We are on the precipice of the 2024 basketball season, and the enthusiasm around this season is palpable. So much happening, so much going on. Even this summer, the show generally in the summer is a little difficult to put all the material together to come up with things that are going to keep the fans interested during that time where there's a lull. But this summer just seemed to be one news report after the next, leading up to last week when we dropped the Woj bomb on everybody.
Yeah.
Interesting. Pete, we're going to start a little bit differently today. We're going to go open up in Pete's Corner, where I challenged Pete to ask me a couple of questions. And I haven't seen the questions. I don't know the questions. I don't know if Pete knows the questions. So we're going to do it. We're going to do it here, and Pete's going to come in, and he's going to give us a couple of quick ones, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to jump right into NBA Fish with you. Go ahead, Pete. Let's go.
How has the NCAA portal made the NCAA indistinguishable from the NBA?
How has the portal made it indistinguishable? I think the NBA has trades which offer more of a system where there's give and take.
Okay.
So what's happening in the NBA now is, let's just say you have a trade that goes on, and Team A, the Lakers, want to trade with the Celtics. They want LeBron. The other team wants Tatum. In that formula, both teams are getting something in return. Might be draft picks, might be money, might be anything that they have to offer up there. My issue and the differential that I see on the NCAA portal is that this is just the bigs muscling the little guys and taking from them, and then the little guys don't get much in return and wind up having to pay also an entire new roster, as we went over last week with our differentials.
Right.
So I think the portal, we've talked about a very, very few things that we like about it. I would say I'm really, really in favor of players being able to move with a little bit more freedom. But right now, what has transpired has created chaos. It's created illusion. We have some of that in our next segment when we go into Portal Potty segment. There's some illusion there where people, it's delusion combined with illusion, and then you wind up with bad decision-making process. And sometimes, as we're going to talk about here, a lot of what happens in the portal, there's no movement at all. Players are, good percentages of the people that are in the portal are still there. They didn't move. They didn't go up. They didn't go down. And again, there's no tracking for D3, NAIA, and some of the other conferences that might be involved there. It's basically a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 situation that they're measuring right now. But the numbers are not good. The numbers are not good there. So it's the distinguished point is the NBA, there's a little bit of give and take, where in the NCAA side, it's just take.
Okay, so in the NBA, when do they
Great
expand?
question, though.
When do they expand their roster by 3 players to give their stars and other players more time off to get them through a season?
If you look closely at what the NBA says about themselves, they call themselves entertainment now. So they're under really no auspices to provide you anything that resembles closely to what you used to know as basketball, because now they're in the entertainment business. When you're in the entertainment business, you're selling tickets. When you're selling tickets, the people who are buying those tickets have an expectation that the player they're going to see is actually going to be there. LeBron James is a huge draw. He'll sell out almost every arena. That's the draw of these great stars. Michael Jordan would sell out New Jersey. Michael Jordan would sell out the Garden every single time. Michael Jordan would be a hot ticket in Boston Garden, when he came into town. LeBron has that same marketability. That's why the great players are paid what they get paid, because they do have that value, So I think that there's a value there, but I just don't know how it all comes back. How do you think it comes back, if it does at all?
I think they have to, at some point, have a journeyman players and expand by a couple players to give because they're getting into this load balancing thing for their players to get them through 80 games. And so I see the need for the rosters to expand by just a little bit, therefore giving more opportunities overall. These are not going to be high played players by any means, but they're going to need guys to fill out rosters and because of injuries and things like that. So I see within a year or two they're going to expand rosters by 3.
I think I thought they were hoping their G League affiliates might be able to cover some of that, where they could send players down to the G League affiliate, keep them down there, keep them wet, and then bring them back during the season if they needed to be. But I agree with you. Why not expand the rosters? I'm open for expanding the rounds of the draft, back up to a 5 number. I think 5 rounds would be more adequate. It used to be 10. Then it went down to 2. Now they're having it 2 on 2 separate days. I think it's a bit much. But I think right now, because that second day was really, really not well attended or visualized, not a lot of people with eyes on that stuff for sure. So I don't know.
All right, third question.
Another great question. Go.
For practice flow, how do you lay out a practice where everything naturally flows, and how do you build to the final thing you want to get through in a practice in the time you have allotted?
Now, that's a great question. As a coach, what you want to be able to do, and this is the most difficult part of coaching, is to try and wrestle with the fact of, do you want to have everything in, or do you want to be good at things and then add other things in? All right, that's 2 different coaching philosophies. A lot of coaches, kitchen sink in the first 3 days. Everything goes in. My philosophy is a little bit more towards growing it a little bit more organically, where we don't just flood them with information. We grow the core things that we want to be good on. We start working on our defense, start working on our rebounding, and those 2 things we spend a lot of time working on in practice, a lot of time. And so what you have is 2 hours. And so it's how you apportion your time, which is most important, because what do you value as a coach? That needs to show up in what you apportion as your practice time to that value set. Okay, so if you really believe in defense, but you don't practice it for an hour a day out of your 2 hours, your value set isn't well supported. So here's the piece of it that I really like. Again, what I tried to do as a coach was to take something from just about everybody that I ever met. So if I sit down with you, and there's things I take from you, Pete. So when I sit down with a person, I take every person as they have unbelievable value. How do I transport that value from them to me? That's how I've grown as a coach. And so what I've done, and I would most notably, Jack Curran was a tremendous influence on my life, but in relation to this question that you're asking me specifically about practice, I would have to say the biggest, most profound influence that I had in my coaching career was a gentleman by the name of Tim Culhane, who wound up coaching at the University of Buffalo. Him and I worked together at the United States Merchant Marine Academy. And there was a breakdown and a format, a template of what had to occur in practice every day. And we worked off that outline, we worked off that template meticulously. And what you want to do is, how fast can we move them along is the question. All right, we're on A. How quickly can we get to B? And we're going to have to get to B. And so maybe all of A isn't all of A right now, but we still got to get to B, and we'll catch up with A later. But your practice format, to me, goes into this real simple outline. You want to warm up. You want to have a really good first 20 minutes of practice where everybody's running up and down, everybody's moving, everybody's grooving, maximum participation, and you're getting everybody warmed up perfectly. Also, a lot of offensive drill set would be in there. Offensive shooting, different things like that would get everybody going, all sorts of drills that we run, fast break drills, all different things like that to get the entire practice moving. Because when I saw Danny Hurley coach, I was like, I felt better. Because then I was like, wow, at least there's one other guy in the world that's like me when it comes to this stuff. And so when I'm out there, it's high intensity. I want my players high intensity. I want everything up at 110%. After warm-up, we're going to go in what we call individual offense. We're going to break down, and we're going to go in with our coaches, break down at different baskets, do different things to improve individually on offense. It might be ball handling. It might be shooting. It might be passing. It might be the actual screening or the ways that we run our offense. That piece of it's going to be handled in individual offense. Then we're going to go into team offense. That's all 5 of us working together. And we take the individual part, and now we move it into the whole. And now the individual comes in, and now we say, okay, this is what we were getting you to do, but now how do you work it out with the rest of the 4 guys that you're playing with so that we're cohesive, melodic, and we have real good esprit de corps. Everybody knows what we're doing. Everybody's bought into what we're doing, and we're just out there trying to execute the best we can. Now you just flip it over and go individual defense. Nobody loves this segment. Nobody loves this segment. I usually put it right in the front of practice. Okay, individual defense, you're sliding. You're taking charges. You're diving on the floor for loose balls. You're practicing your blockout techniques. You're working on 2-on-2 defense, 3-on-3 defense, building it up to 4-on-4 to 5-on-5. Then you go into your team defense segment, which is a little bit more friendly, a little bit more fun for the players. But that individual defense segment, I took most of that stuff that I do from Jerry Tarkanian, who is the great coach at UNLV. Yeah. And that's where we really want to know who's going to quit. If you want to find out who's going to quit, run some really rigorous defensive drills up and down where there's no scoring, there's nothing in there. You just got to stop guys, and you got to get after it, and you're really going to put out a great effort with a ton of intensity. That's how you'll know who your starting 5 is. Those are your guys. The 5 of the guys that cross that line over to your approval, those are the guys you'll start. The other guys, they won't make it. The other guys won't get there. That's how you know, and that's how you'll determine who's going to start. And if you're a good coach, that's how you hold that line, is you come over this line or you don't play. And you come over this line and you'll be with us and you'll understand what we're doing, or you will not get in the game. And that's where you're, as a coach, you're really trying to teach. You're really trying to motivate. And with me, I really believe, and this is something I would say I would be different from a lot of coaches on this. I try to leave out the negative because the negative has already occurred. And so if I'm going to talk to them about the negative, I've just spent, now obviously you got to go back sometimes and say, hey, John, I want you to do it this way.
Critique is different than negative.
Right. But I want to show them how I'm going to get them better.
Yeah.
This is what's going to make you a better player. So that's the positive vein that I'm always trying to come on, so that even at, like, I don't believe in yelling at my players during the game. If I have something that I really want to get off my chest, or it might have an emotional ring to it, I'm going to do that at halftime behind closed doors. I'm never, ever going to attempt to embarrass one of my players during the game. That starts in practice as well. And so when I'm in there, I want to be Peter positive. I want to be as positive as I possibly can, because the negative has already occurred, and then I'm living in the past. And I don't want to live in the past. I want to focus on the future. How do we correct that? How do we provide solutions? That's my job. I got to have that answer. If I don't have the answer, that's when I start screaming. If I don't know how to teach them, that's when I start yelling at them. But if I'm as good as I think I am, my voice should never raise. My voice should never raise, because they love basketball and they want to get better. And as long as we can communicate on that, agree on that, we'll always be in good cohesion. And that's the part of, as coach, I think I've always made my money on. I think that's what I've always been able to do, is to get my players to trust me when you're out on the floor. I'm never going to embarrass you. You make a mistake, we're not going to pull you right out of the game. You make a bunch of mistakes in a row, you might be coming out of the game, but everybody makes mistakes. I dribbled the ball off my leg during basketball games. I threw the ball into the stands. I threw up air balls. I had all of those things occur to me as a player. So as a coach, I try and remember, how did you feel when those things went down in your head? I was so negative with myself as a player, it was crazy. You couldn't get Bobby Knight to be worse to me than I was to my own self. I was horrible to myself if I could have ever gone back as a player, I would have been a lot friendlier to myself as a player. And I'll tell that to all these guys. The voice that goes on inside of your head as a player matters. Talk to yourself better. It's only you can count on. Everybody else will provide the negative assessment for you. Be the positive voice inside your own head always. That's the advice I could give to them. But Pete, unbelievable. That's our first Pete's Corner, and we came out with 3 unbelievable questions. And the third question really was awesome because it allowed me to expand into so many different areas and philosophies that I have about coaching. And I know a lot of young coaches watch this show. The last thing you want to do in practice is your specials. Special situations. I left that out. Okay, so we have that 5-part component. The special situations are we're down by 2. There's 1 minute left in the game. What are we doing? You're breaking the game down into really small pieces and saying, this is what we do. 10 seconds left. We're side out of bounds. Here we're calling the play. We're calling Pete Coles and we're running Georgetown. That's what we're going to call the play. And then they'll know this is what we're doing right off that set and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
But all of that goes into the game, all of those myriad of situations, you better prepare them for every single one of them before that game happens. You better have gone over every single one of your I love watching teams play when I'm watching film and I watch them and we're about to play them and none of their guys know their plays. I look at the out of bounds play, I go, I can't even tell you what the play is because they don't know. I'm trying to steal it from them, put it down on my scouting report, and I can see their own team doesn't know the play yet.
Coach, we ran into that this morning with the production crew of students.
It's everywhere.
It's preparing.
It's
you have
everywhere.
to prepare. Yeah.
You have to prepare, and you have to be ready to adjust. You have to be ready to change. As a coach, if you're not ready to change, you're getting ready to get changed. I can tell you that. Change is your friend as a coach. Embrace it. But again, be positive. Keep that positive voice in there, and nobody wants to hear their children getting screamed at.
Correct.
In front of thousands of people. Nobody.
Or even dozens of people.
I was at a game one time. I'll give you a quick story, all right? I was at a game one time. My assistant coach says, Coach, we got to go see this guy play. We go all the way out to Salem to watch this game play, and it's a heated rivalry game. This place is jammed, and it's heated. So the coaches from one of the teams, and I don't even remember which one, but the coaches put this young kid into the game, and they had like 6 assistant coaches there, all like dressed the same way with clipboards and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, okay, at least they got some guys that are going to know what's going on here. So they put this young kid into the game, and he goes into the game. Within the first 30 seconds of the game, he picks up his first foul.
Wow.
No problem. In there for about 2 minutes now, he picks up his second foul. Right about into 2.5 minutes, I'm looking at the bench going, well, normally we would take him out. In the first half. You commit 2 fouls in the first half, you're going to take them out.
Yep.
3, you got to get them out, and you're really putting them, you're handcuffing your own player into the second half because you're going to have to be careful in the second half if you allow him to accumulate that third foul. But if he's a really great player and you're watching the scoreboard hemorrhage, you might throw him in there and risk the third. But when you see 2, my assistant coaches are ringing the bell. They're pulling on my shirt. They're grabbing my coat. They're saying, Coach, get him out. Get him out. Get him out. Okay. It doesn't happen. Kid goes out, 3 minutes into the game, he now has his third foul.
Ooh.
I'm sitting there, okay, now you got to get him out, Coach. Got to get him out. They don't take him out. Not one assistant coach says anything.
Wow.
So it goes on for another 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh, my God, please, no. And I'm looking at the ref going, don't even light the kid up like this. But within 4 minutes of being in the game, the kid picks up his 4th foul. And somebody in the stands jumps up and goes, get that kid out of here. He's a bum.
Oh, my God.
Right next to us. Right next to us. The guy
Lord.
just jumps up, screams at the top of his lungs. So the coaching staff is right across they can hear this guy, and he just jumps up, get him out. He's a bum. What he didn't know was the kid's mother was sitting right in front of him. And she takes off her high heel, turns around, and spikes him in the head and goes, who you calling a bum? That's my boy. And she starts wailing him on top of the head with her shoe.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, this might be the greatest thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm having a good time. But what I say to people also is positive voices. Or you might get spiked over the head with an angry mom's stiletto. Okay. Just a little humor today. I could tell you some of the gyms I've been in, Pete. Let's jump right into NBA Feed 'em Fish. And now we got to hustle a little bit. All right, so here's Luka versus LeBron. Everybody wants to talk Mike and LeBron. I'm going to give you Luka LeBron in the first 370 games in the NBA. Unbelievable. I love these stats. I love to find this stuff online. Here's LeBron. 10,074 points in his first 370 games. Unbelievable. Luka, 10,488. Edge Luka. Rebounding, 2,538. LeBron. Luka, 3,169.
Wow.
Edge Luka. Assist, 2,439. I thought James would have the edge here. 3,013 for Luka. Edge Luka. 46.6% field goal percentage, which is excellent for LeBron James, but 46.9 for Luka, and that is edge Luka. 32.2 three-point field goal percentage for LeBron, 34.3 three-point field goal percentage for Luka. Again, edge Luka. Free throws 72.9 for LeBron, 74.4 for Luka.
Luka's the man. He really is. He's going to be the man.
What it shows you is you have Michael Jordan, you have Larry Bird, you have Kobe Bryant, you have all these great names to talk about. Now you can throw LeBron James into that conversation, but you better look behind you too, because you got Joker, you got Luka coming up, you got some great young players coming up. MJ, in the GOAT discussion, won 10 of 11 scoring titles in his first 11 seasons. The only season he did not win the scoring title was his rookie year. And he averaged that year, when he came in third, 28.2 points per game. Michael Jordan had an incredible, immaculate NBA career. LeBron James has had an incredible, immaculate NBA career. Luka Doncic is on his way to putting up some incredible, incredible numbers. We'll see if he has the longevity numbers of James or the sustaining ability of Michael Jordan to keep that going all the way into the late stages of your 30s. We'll see if he can do that. But again, if you put those three gentlemen in a bubble, and I got to pick a game in the West 4th Street League down in New York City, I'm taking Michael Jordan every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. Congratulations to Caitlin Clark. We, again, a little bit of prophecy here in the zone. We told you she was going to be Rookie of the Year. No question about it. No question about it. And I've heard a lot of this stuff going on and on and on with all of the talking pundits on ESPN and all the different places around. There is no question in my mind that that young lady belonged on the Olympic team as well. And I'm not talking about her cachet. I'm talking about her game. I'm talking about her basketball ability only. She should have absolutely been in that uniform. She should have absolutely been there based upon her merits. Now throw in the part of what she's actually doing for the WNBA, how she is the rising tide of the WNBA. She absolutely should have been on that Olympic team. Absolutely 100%.
If the WNBA is like the NBA and they're now entertainment, she's the draw that puts them in.
I'll tell you something, Pete. I've watched basketball a long time. What has happened to her on the basketball court in terms of the physicality that's been brought her way, you can call it physicality if you want. It's been flat out dirty. Dirty play. And I don't like dirty basketball play. And what's been leveled at her direction has been absolutely dirty. What's been leveled in her direction by some of the media pundits that are out there is absolutely abysmal. It has been terrible, and it's not right, it's not fair, and you know why you're doing it. It's not cool.
Yep.
Clippers are going to hold Kawhi Leonard out of camp drills. This is what we talked about last week with the Clippers, the reason we took them out of the top 15 of our Super 15, although they spent a lot of time there last year, and maybe they can again. But right now, with the loss of Paul George and Westbrook, they got some issues, and if anything happens to Kawhi Leonard, it's going to be James Harden and the rest of these guys, and I don't know how they're going to go with that. I think Harden's a terrific player, but I think they just don't have, NBA requires depth. NBA requires depth. They require the deepest teams. Okay, so I just wanted to keep you informed, as we did previous with the great NBA political talk that's going on here right now, I've termed it the bipartisan bologna sandwich on a stale bulky roll. That's when we talked about the two senators who were talking about the NBA's commitment in Rwanda to build NBA Africa, to try and get something positive going in those countries over there in terms of basketball. Again, I laid off the NBA on this one. There's a lot of people, that there's a lot of people that everybody deals with in a lot of different countries, and I think we should be careful about just because they have some bad leadership in that country, I think we should be careful about assigning that to everybody in the country as well. So they're doing business in Rwanda. Paul Kagame is some great dictator who's really, really wreaking havoc like there's none of those around that we do business with. And the NBA responds, Mark Tatum is the deputy commissioner. He responded and he basically said, we follow along government guidelines. The government does business with some of these people, and we follow suit, and we do business with them as well. I thought that was a pretty good response. But in all reality, when Senator Blackburn and the other group that they're associated with came into this forum, the NBA, basically, and I have this on good account, the NBA basically responded with the hysterical emoji and basically said, we have a lot worse friends than that, and so do you.
Touche.
Kendrick Perkins is the front runner for the Benedict Arnold Award right now. Talk about a traitor to the Celtics, no less. He's up there just running his mouth constantly. I don't get it. I don't get him. But he is the absolute front runner for the Benedict Arnold. He turned on the Celtics, said nobody in the NBA is afraid of the Celtics right now. Nobody. They just won the title, Kendrick. They just won the whole thing. Everybody's afraid of them because they made them afraid of them. Now, can they continue what they're doing? I don't know. But as a guy who was a former Celtic to jump on the Knicks bandwagon, I don't know. But I will tell you one thing about Kendrick Perkins, and I'll say this right now to everybody. If you look in the dictionary, Webster's Dictionary, under the most average center ever to play basketball in the NBA, you'll see a half of Kendrick Perkins' big head. That's what you'll see. Kristaps Porzingis continuing to rehab, continuing to try and get better. The Celtics and the Knicks both have situations, the Knicks with their center Mitchell and the Celtics with Porzingis. Porzingis will not be back to December, will not be back to probably December, January. That's going to be a good amount of games that they're going to be without him. Personally, last year, that team with Al Horford hit a certain kind of stride without Porzingis that I thought, was noticeable and palpable. But now he'll be back. He's rehabbing, trying to get it back. Very, very rare and difficult injury. We'll see how that goes. I would stay tuned on that one because that's, I think, an injury where you might have some recurrence, a good chance of recurrence, and that's where you really got to watch out for. But again, Mitchell, same thing with the Knicks. It's why I wanted the Knicks to go a little bigger in the draft than they did and find some bigs because Mitchell will be out till December or January as well, having some surgeries. So he's out for the beginning of the season. He played 31 games prior to ankle surgery last year, and he's slated for a December, January return, just like the big guy is, KP, in Boston. Okay, Joel Embiid took an extension, 3 years, $192 million, $60 million is now the thing going on. That's the number. Soon to join the NBA $500 million club, having accumulated over $500 million in earnings. He's a three-time All-Star, and he's just a terrific player. But I have three-time All-Star down here, but I want to go back and check that. I'm not sure. I think I might be talking about this next portion here when we talk about Derrick Rose. But the Embiid port going to 6 years, that gives him 299.5 through 28-29. Not bad. Not bad. The Grizzlies are waiving Derrick Rose. He's 35. He was a 3-time All-Star, and he was also the MVP.
Embiid, 7-time All-Star.
Embiid was 7. Excuse me. Thank you, Pete.
Just
and now
checking.
you have 3-time All-Star Derrick Rose, 2010, 2011 MVP. He was just cut by the Grizzlies. All right. We're moving and grooving here, Pete. I'm going to jump into something here, and I'm going to give you the last 30 MVPs that have been in the NBA. The last 30 years of MVPs. Okay, last year we had, I'm going to go in reverse. So we're starting in 24, and we're going to wind up in 95. All right, pretty cool stuff here. I saw some great names. Number 1, Nikola Jokic was the MVP. This is what I didn't realize as well, because number 2 is Joel Embiid in 23. And I'm going to be honest, folks. Joel Embiid didn't deserve the MVP in 2023. Joker did. But I think that was too much for the NBA to have him 4 times in a row. Because that, if you look at down here, Michael Jordan, some of these other players, at least up till 95, haven't shown that kind of domination. I'm not sure why it went down that way, but if you go 24, 23, 22, and 21, you have Jokic 3 times, and you have Embiid 1 time. Get down to 20 and 19, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo back-to-back. He goes MVP back-to-back right before Nikola. Now you come down to the 7th pick in 2018. It was our favorite guy, Pete, James Harden. It's hard to be Harden. And here's the funny part about it. Come down to 8 in the 17th spot, Russell Westbrook. 2 mercurial players right there, both Clippers, and Westbrook's gone now. But I believe they're going to keep Harden and try and build around that. I don't know how that's going to work. He's been around a while. 9 and 10 here we have in 16 and 15, Steph Curry, the great mad bomber from beyond. The depth, the range, the consistency, probably got to go down as one of the greatest shooters of all time. 11 and 12, you had Kevin Durant in 14, LeBron James in 13 and 12. LeBron back-to-back. Derrick Rose, the aforementioned Derrick Rose, 14th pick. Derrick Rose in 2011, MVP. Unbelievable. I didn't even remember that. Now you come back in 10 and 9, and you go back to LeBron. Go back to the big guy LeBron 2 years in a row. So he does it in 2010, does it in 2009 as well. In the 17th spot here, we have Kobe Bryant. Unbelievable. Great career. Great player. Loved his work ethic. I actually saw him play in high school, folks. I never saw anybody able to levitate above the rim like that young man did. It was almost actually as if he was flying. Dirk Nowitzki in the 18th spot, 07. Big Dirk from the Dallas Mavericks, championship year for them, I believe. 19 and 20 in 06 and 05, you have back-to-back Steve Nash. I'll go out on a limb either as well, too. I don't think Steve Nash, I don't know. I don't want to be too critical, but I thought maybe one of those 2 years Steve Nash could have been MVP, not both of them. Not both of them. Kevin Garnett, the Celtics in 04. Tim Duncan, back-to-back for TD. He was a great center, great player, unbelievable, in 03 and 02. Then you have Allen Iverson in 01, the Big Daddy, Shaq O'Neal in 2000, Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, and David Robinson closes out there. So you had that little skip to my Lou with Michael Jordan, then Karl Malone. Michael Jordan, then Karl Malone. And right before that, the Admiral, the great Admiral, 7 foot and change, David Robinson from the United States Naval Academy. Do you think David Robinson took his physical on his knees, Pete? Because the Naval has that height requirement.
Yep.
I think he might have been stooping down there a little bit. All right. In addition to the MVPs, the last 30, we're going to count you off the last 30 rookies of the year in the NBA as well. This is going to be pretty cool. Number 1 last year, Victor Wembanyama. 2 the year before, Paolo Banchero. 3, our guy, we love him out of Florida State, Scotty Barnes. LaMelo Ball was in 2021. I didn't remember that one.
Yeah.
John Morant in 2020. Luka, 2019. Here's one for you, Pete. Ben Simmons, 2018, Rookie of the Year. Really hasn't made it. It hasn't had it since then.
Yep.
Malcolm Brogdon, 2017, the UVA graduate. Big Cat, Carl Anthony Towns in 2016. He's still going. He's still running. Andrew Wiggins, 2015. One of the reasons Carl Anthony Towns is still running is because they haven't seen him in the paint in 10 years. He only runs from three-point line to three-point line. I think we should nickname him Turpentine because he don't mix well with paint. Andrew Wiggins in 2015. Michael Carter Williams, the Syracuse product, 2014. Damian Lillard, 2013. Now with Antetokounmpo and the Bucks, can they get it together? That's a question. That loss of Jrue Holiday is huge. People don't know how good he really is. Because if you did, you would have never traded him. Kyrie, 2012. Blake Griffin, 2011. Tyreek Evans, 2010. Played for John Calipari down in Memphis. Derrick Rose. Kevin Durant, 2008. This is some list here. Okay, we got Brandon Roy from the Portland Trailblazers. Chris Paul. Here's one for you, Pete. Omika Okafor, former UConn Husky,
sure.
the big man,
Yep.
05. LeBron in 04. Amari Stoudemire in 03. Grant Cooper's favorite player of all time. Paul Gasol in 02. Mike Miller in 01. That was a shocker. Elton Brand and Steve Francis split it in 2000. Elton Brand played at Poughkeepsie High School in New York on a state championship team. One of the reasons I know that is because my cousin, Gus Egan, was also on that team with the big guy. All right, so you got Damon Stoudemire, the coach at Georgia Tech right now. He was Rookie of the Year in 96. Again, they split it with Grant Hill and Jason Kidd.
Wow, three-way.
That's two good ones right there, man. That's unbelievable. Chris Webber, Timeout Webber in 94. Big Daddy Shaq in 93. Larry Johnson, what a great college player Larry Johnson was, 92. Derek Coleman in 91. And David Robinson, again, the Admiral, in 1990. Pete, we're going to slide into NCAA fish. Portal potty. Conclusion. We don't even mess around here, folks, because we've got graphics all over the place. When we tell you portal potty, look at it. You know what it is. You've been at those concerts. It stinks. It doesn't get flushed. It's no good for anybody except if you got to do something really, really quick to change things. All right. Adam Nelson from Hoop Dirt tells us, in the portal potty, Division II, 61% of the portal entries remain uncommitted.
Wow.
61% of portal potty entries remain uncommitted. So you waited online, you missed half the concert, you got into the portal potty, and you didn't even go to the bathroom. Terrible. NABC arrangement. That's my group. That's my people. The National Association of Basketball Coaches. We have now severed our agreement with the NCAA. I received a nice little email from a gentleman by the name of Craig Robinson, used to be the head coach at Oregon State. But what Craig Robinson is most notable for is he is Michelle Obama's brother.
Oh, okay.
And Barack Obama's brother-in-law. He is the head of the NABC. He said, we're hopeful that we'll be able to get back into agreement with the NCAA. But to be honest with you, I don't know what they were doing for us in the first place. I would be, I'd be looking to see exactly what was the benefit. What's the cost analysis benefit there? Okay, they're going to give you the Big East standings right now, Pete, over the last 162 games. So this is the Big East as if it was one baseball season. It's pretty cool. All right? Who's the leader? Who do you think's in the top there of the Big East? All the way across now.
Not sure.
I'm going to go with Creighton. 112 and 50.
Wow.
691 percentage. Number 2, Marquette. 106.56. Excuse me, folks. I've got to get that Canada Dry in there today. Xavier, 99 and 63. They're in the 3rd spot. Butler, 80 and 82. They're under 500. DePaul 56 and 106. Wow. Wow. Now they broke this into two kind of conference setups here. So now you go over to UConn side, they're 121 and 41. So they're actually in first place with a 747 winning percentage over the 162 games. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's almost 80% of all your games. Villanova 107 and 55. Providence 103 and 59. Seton Hall 99 and 63. St. John's, we've fallen. We can't get up, 89 and 73. Georgetown, we fell off a cliff, and now they found us, and we're barely alive. And we're going to try and get us in a helicopter and lift us off this cliff. But they're really, really bad shape. Really, really, really bad shape. Okay, so Pete, we have some NCAA interesting stuff here. Number one, you're going to see a great exhibition game here. There's going to be some really good exhibition games to open up the season, and they're coming in October. They're coming really, really quick. One I want to put on your radar is the first time you're going to watch this Arkansas team of John Calipari, the really, really mega talented team, and they're going to go up against Kansas in an exhibition game, which is going to be really, really good. Lights out. First look at Calipari's new team. This is also a remake of a coaching matchup that occurred in the national championship game when Kansas beat Memphis in the very, very end of the game. The rematch of the national championship game, Pitt Self against Calipari, and both of those teams, you know, right now are very highly thought of, but Kansas right now is in most people's either top 5 or top 10. A Big 12 update for you, folks. This has been strange. I got to be honest. Even for me, been watching this a long time. This has been a little crazy. We were talking about UConn joining the Big 12 last time.
Right.
I know they had some discussions. I don't know how serious it got, but they decided for whatever reason, maybe they watched In the Zone. Maybe they got to look at In the Zone. And In the Zone told you that's going to be good for their basketball program, but you're going to lose 55-0 for the next number of years in football, and it's going to be really, really ugly. It's not going to be good. And I think the Big 12 kind of got a sense of that as well. And there was some talk about them offering Gonzaga, my guys out of the WCC, and UConn memberships only as basketball affiliates to come in and get a full share of the conference things, but only as basketball affiliates. I'd want to see some more backup information on that.
Yeah.
Because I can't believe the Big 12 was offering that. But they went ahead and took Utah State. The Big 12 did. They took Utah State out of the Mountain West. And so what was happening also was UNLV was scheduled, because you got plate tectonics moving now, and all of these different teams move. Other conferences are grabbing. These people are doing this, and it's really, it's about as a Wild West show as the portal, as the NIL. I mean, it's just all over the place right now. And so these conferences are all grabbing, moving, shifting, doing all of this stuff. Nobody can tell you who's in every conference right now. I mean, you have to be a savant to be able to tell you who's in the ACC, the Big Ten, and all those conferences because of all of the shifting that's gone on. But now the Big 12 responds, and they grab the Utah State Aggies. Now, the Utah State Aggies were in the Mountain West. The Mountain West was about to add UNLV, but the UNLV commitment was predicated upon all of the Mountain West teams remaining.
Ooh.
Now that Utah State has flown the coop to go to the Big 12, now that puts the UNLV deal going into the Mountain West on a little bit of tentative footing, I would say. I think in the end of day, UNLV would be smart to take Utah State's spot.
Right. Become the big
in
dog,
Midwest
yeah.
And go in there and have a good situation.
Sure.
Some of these people, you're talking about big dog, some of these people are lifting their leg way too high on the hydrant, Pete. Some of these dogs are lifting their leg way too high on the hydrant. They're not going to be able to sustain it. You're going to lose a ton of money. It's going to show up in your recruiting. It's going to show up in your NIL deals, because now NIL says somebody with more money is just going to come in. You'll be recruiting the guy all along. Somebody comes in on Sunday with a bigger, better deal, and you're toast. So it's not going to be easy for some of these teams that are jumping in. Utah State to the Big 12, that's a way too big leap, I think. I think Utah State's going to be fodder at the bottom of that league, but hey, who knows? But again, that throws the UNLV deal into a little bit of they can get out of it if they want. They went out of it. The Pac-12, because they're losing people, they're hemorrhaging, they go out looking. So they go in and they try and raid the AAC, the America Conference, where UConn used to be. Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, Texas San Antonio. Good programs, but I don't think ready for Pac-12 level. But now the Pac-12 is desperate because they got robbed. Now they're looking to rob somebody, and it's just everybody grabbing everybody till they can finally make it work. It's happening on all levels. It's happening on Division II. It's happening on Division III. This conference realignment stuff is absolutely probably more dizzying than the portal and I wouldn't say the NIL because that's just left. The rosters are just completely worn out. And unless, of course, you have a photographic and photogenic memory, you're not going to be able to keep track of any of this stuff to any, I've been following it pretty closely, and it's still pretty rough if you ask me. Okay, so the Pac-12 went fishing. Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, all said we're staying. Kudos to them. Kudos to them for not jumping into the Pac-12. They decided to stay in their league. And also, this is a number that I was looking for. I wanted to share it with people so that they get an understanding of the depth of some of the dollars that have to change hands when this thing goes down. Memphis, in order to go to the Pac-12, $27 million buyout to the current league. $27 million, plus you're buying your way into the other conference. Now,
Jeez.
I was told that the Pac-12 might be so desperate that they're allowing some of these teams to come in unencumbered.
Without paying the fee?
Without paying the fee. You still got to pay your exits, but you may not have to pay your entrance. That might make a little bit of a difference, but who knows? I got some Dickie V stuff for you here. Love Dickie V. He's been struggling. He's been fighting, but I love this guy. My guy, Jack Curran, loved him. He's a really, really been a part of this basketball scene. You talk about Woj in the NBA. I mean, Dick Vitale is bigger than Woj for all of these years in the NCAA side. Absolute legend. His guards that he likes this year are Mark Sears, A.J. Storr, who's going over to Kansas from Wisconsin, Ryan Nembhard, if you remember that name, if you think that name's been familiar, it's not the same guy that's been around for the last 12 years. There's been brothers, and they're all the basketball family. They're all unbelievable. He likes L.J. Cryer, and so do I. I think Houston's going to be tough to beat this year. His low-post enforcers, Hunter Dickinson. Cayman Malak, get used to that name, folks. Cayman Malak, Duke freshman. He's terrific. Umar Ballo, we've talked about him quite a bit. Alex Caravan, the UConn captain, and this gentleman I really like, Ryan Kalkbrenner, pretty high on him. Marco Polo, his Marco Polo team, that's the transfer team. He likes John U.L. Davis going to Arkansas, and so do I. Cliff Amourier, we talked about him from Rutgers to Alabama. What a big jump that is. He loves Kadari Richmond and North Shore Amir, as I do. I think Kadari Richmond could be a really big help for St. John's. North Shore Amir going over to Baylor makes them legit, makes them into a conference team where you have VJ Edgecombe, you have Jeremy Roach from Duke, and North Shore Amir as a 1-2-3 punch. That's a pretty good 1-2-3 punch. All right, Frank Lloyd Wright. I think that's because they're architects, they're coaches. He likes Danny Hurley in the number one spot, and so do we in the zone. Mark Few, number 2. I love that, Dickie. Go ahead, give Mark Few his props. Bill Self, Nate Oates, Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin Sampson's got to be higher. And Matt Painter. But that's a list.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the list, you're thankful, right? If you're on the list, you're thankful. Okay, we're going to close, Pete, and I don't know how far we're going to get into it, but we promised last week that we would continue with our differentials.
So you got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes, and I think we're going to be good. I really love the differentials because it really illuminates what's going, what's coming, and it gives you a numerical value around it. Let's hit the Big East. Butler, depart, 36.6. Retain, 41.5. Very, very few and rare teams are on the positive side of this RSS net. RSS differential. Very few, and we're clapping for 4.9, Pete. We're clapping like seals for 4.9 plus on your net. Creighton departs 41.8. They return 41.1. A lot of that is tied up in Kalkbrenner. Their net is negative 0.7. As much as you say, wow, they have a negative net, that's still really, really good when you hear some of the rest of these numbers.
Sure, yeah.
Here comes one for you. DePaul, they depart 76.4 of their roster points per game of their roster. They return 0. Minus 76.4. Pete, I love those punch-ins too, man. Keep them coming. I love them. Georgetown departs 50.5. They retain 23.7. They're excited over at Georgetown, but at negative 26.8, I don't know. If you're just, because this is what this demonstrates, either you're gaining or you're just trading out the old for the new. And that's what this illuminates. What's happening in the portal, so many people gone, so many people in. How can you benefit from that? When you do a cost-benefit analysis or return on investment analysis, how could you benefit from that?
That's been our question since the beginning of this.
You can't.
Right.
And so unless you have program integrity, and we've talked about our PIs, UConn, Houston, Purdue, Gonzaga, those are the teams that are holding on to their integrity. I'm going to give you another one here that I think might help them, but I don't think it catches the UConn Huskies. Marquette departs 28.7. That's a big number, too, especially since they lost their point guard, Tyler Kolek, and they lose Oso Ighodaro as well. So some of these losses are like, okay, we lost 53 points, but it was spread amongst 8 guys. And so it doesn't really matter that much because you can find that and make that up. But when you got 2 punch losses like this, wow, that's going to be tough. But they do net plus 29.8. So Marquette's very, very well positioned to make a run. I don't know that they're going to catch UConn, though. I really don't, because the way I see the Big East is it's Danny Hurley and it's the rest. Providence, 48.0 gone. Some of that's to the NBA draft. Some of that's to attrition. They retained 38.3, not bad. They come up with a negative 9.7 number.
That's not terrible.
Not terrible at all. Anything that's not out of the range, like you're looking at DePaul, minus 76.4, that's your range. That's what you're looking at. Those are the high ranges. Then you have some at 0. You have some positives on the other side. So anything positive is going to be really, really good. You know, Seton Hall, 63.1 out the door. Kadari Richmond, one of them. And not only that, those are some of the things that are hard to measure. And why I say they're hard to measure, Kadari Richmond, not only is he leaving Seton Hall, he's going to St. John's. But what's the other factor that you have to include there? It's in the league. They're going to play against each other for the league title.
It's like a double loss.
Right. It's like a 2.5 loss. It's unbelievable numerically how to try to explain that. It's really, really hard. But they're 48.3 on the negative side, Seton Hall on their net. St. John's, 65.1, goes out the door. This is what I'm talking about. 65.1. I know you got some new guys. Maybe they got quicker feet, but you're not in any palpable, anything you can feel as far as a better situation than where you have been with Coach Pitino and St. John's. I don't see them faring as well in the Big East as they did even last year. And I hate to say that because I'm a New York guy and I love St. John's, but I just don't see it. I see the ground underneath them lifting a little bit. With Georgetown's not going to be down forever. Butler's got it going with their new coach. There's some Xavier's going to be better this year, and I think that's going to be detrimental to St. John's program. And minus 43.8 on the net, that ain't going to help nobody.
The fans are...
They're so desperate out there to win, too, and I feel for them. I really do, because the tradition was there. And when St. John's was good, New York was a great place to be. Really was. Louis Carnesecca dancing on the sidelines. You know, I just remember being in the Garden that night, and they have a huge win streak going. They've got a great team. John Thompson walks in, and Lou Carnesecca was a superstitious little Italian elf, and he would wear the same sweater every night because they hadn't lost. He wears the same sweater. Finally, John Thompson comes in from Georgetown, takes off his sport jacket, is the exact same sweater on as Carnesecca, and they blew St. John's out that night. But that's when St. John's owned the Garden. They owned New York. They were relevant. Right now, the Garden's calling up St. John's going, we need 10,000 fans in order to break even.
Yeah.
And if you guys can't get us 10,000 fans, hold your games at Carnesecca. Connecticut, here's one that's going to be, 54.5. The reason that I'm optimistic about them being able to hold where they are, despite 54.5, is because they've done it before. They've had these big numbers before. And they have a 31.5 retention. Caravan's back. Solomon Johnson's been around. They have some guys. Hassan Diarra. They have some guys.
They've also homegrown a lot of talent.
They sure have. They sure have. Villanova. Here, I'd keep my eye on this team right here because they could wind up in serious trouble if they're not careful. Or they could rise a little bit. 49.6 goes out the door, though, for Villanova. 24 is retained. They're negative 25.6. Last year, okay, and if this happens again this year, they're going to have Kyle Neptune in a rocket ship, and he's going to be going to Neptune. All right? They lost to Penn, St. Joseph's, and Drexel last year. You can lose to just about anybody if you're Villanova, but you cannot lose in Philadelphia to those affiliates that are in your affiliate area there. That is a big rivalry. That's a big deal, and Villanova has ruled that roost for years. I don't see it. Xavier, this is what we were talking about, 58.4 out the door, but they returned 46.9. Also, Zach Fremantle, who sat out last year, big man, is back. That's going to be big. I think they're going to be able to clean the top half of the Big East with this team. The conclusion is watch where the Huskies go and don't eat that yellow snow. Frank Zappa there, folks. All right? That's what we can give you. All right? Now, what we're going to do right now is give you, just to close out, we're going to go through as much, I don't know, let's run through it. All right? I got two, right, Pete?
Yep.
I'm going to give you some quick numbers just on the Big Ten, and then I'll finish it next week. Illinois departs 85.6. Terrence Shannon out the door. Other great players out the door. They lost to Kansas State on a muscle job. They return 8.6. They're net 79.0. People are really... And people think that Underwood, I got to find out how long these things are so I know how to keep my mouth shut. But people are thinking that Underwood can get over that and climb over that. I don't think John Wooden can climb over that. Indiana Hoosiers, one of the reasons I'm excited about them, minus 37.2, plus 43.2 returning, though. They are plus 6 on the advantage, and they did some work in the portal. Umar Ballo in the portal. Keenan Carlisle in the portal. They've got some good players on this team. Mackenzie Mabako, a sophomore, one of the best sophomores. He's back.
We'll give him the winner's sound effect.
That's it. Iowa, Hawkeyes. This program, integrity, this is how they're going to survive. And I think you're going to see them rise a little bit because they're not going to be in all this craziness. They have 41.1 goes out the door, 43.8 returns. They're plus 2.7.
There you go.
And the team I'm most excited about in their elevation in the Big Ten, and we'll get back to it next week, is Maryland. I like the Terrapins this year. I think that Julian Reese is a very, very solid big man. I really love Derek Queen, and I'm excited about Coach Willard. He's a good coach. Show patience, show diligence as an AD, and it often pays off. Folks, that's the fastest hour in America right there. I don't know how we get through it every day, and I look up and the clock goes 1 o'clock. Pete says 2 minutes. I'm in the 2-minute warning. I think I'm Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I have so many 2-minute warnings. But again, we're doing really well with the show, and we appreciate you and thank you, and we'll see you next week in the zone, baby.